The song didn't come from a speaker. It didn't come from a signal. It didn't come from anywhere. It simply was. Illyra Voss heard it first. She was standing on the UNS Vireo's observation blister, watching the white tier symbols drift like embers through the nebula when the air around her changed. Not in temperature, not in pressure, in meaning. It wasn't music. It was a memory, not hers, not anyone she knew. It was a memory of a place that had never existed, a world with twin moons that sang in harmonic thirds, a forest where trees grew upward from the roots, their leaves whispering stories in a language of wind and light. A child, small, dark-haired, eyes like polished obsidian, sitting on a cliff, holding a stone that glowed with the same seven-pointed spiral. And then the child turned, looked directly at her, smiled, and whispered, "You're late." The song faded. Illyra gasped. She hadn't moved. She hadn't spoken. Yet she had been seen. She rushed to the bridge. Kale was already there, eyes wide, fingers trembling over the console. I didn't pick it up on sensors. It didn't travel through space. It appeared. In every mind, on every ship, in every colony, even the ones without comms. Tisa looked up from her station. I heard it. I saw the child. I remembered her. Dr. Vey stepped in, holding his head. I've never seen anything like this. It's not neural interference. It's not an AI echo. It's ancestral memory. But not from humans. Not from any species we've cataloged. Joris frowned. So what? Some ancient alien ghost is broadcasting lullabies? The fracture device, now silent, dormant but still present in the ship's core, like a heartbeat, hummed once. And then the voice returned. Not from the child, from the void. I am not a ghost. I am the first, and I have been waiting. The voice was neither male nor female, neither old nor young. It was the voice of time itself, and it spoke only one sentence. You are not the first to remember. You are the first to be remembered. The Vireo didn't jump. It didn't follow coordinates. It didn't chase a signal. It simply listened. And the song came again. This time, clearer, deeper. And this time, it showed them. Not as a vision, as a recollection. Not from their minds, from the universes. The vision. A star system, older than the Synod, older than the Keepers, older than the first remembered. Its central star was not a star. It was a seed. A single, glowing orb of condensed memory, suspended in a web of quantum filaments. Around it, orbiting in perfect, silent harmony, were 12 worlds, each one a vessel, each one a soul, each one a species that had learned to feel. They did not build ships. They built echoes. They did not fight. They sang. Their songs were not sound. They were emotional signatures, patterns of joy, grief, wonder, rage, love, encoded into the fabric of space-time. They called themselves the First Whisper, not because they were the first to speak, but because they were the first to feel so deeply. Their emotion became a force. They did not fear the cosmos. They harmonized with it. They taught gravity to bend toward compassion. They taught entropy to pause for a breath. They taught stars to weep. And for a time, the galaxy was whole. Then came the silencers, not the keepers, something older, something that had existed before memory, before feeling, before time. They were not beings, they were absences, entities born from the silence between thoughts. They did not destroy, they unwrote. They did not erase memories, they erased the capacity to create them. One by one, the worlds of the First Whisper fell, not with fire,
with forgetting. The trees stopped singing. The children stopped dreaming. The stars stopped weeping. And the seed, the heart of it all, was sealed. Not hidden, not destroyed, buried, in a place where even the keepers could not reach, where even the first remembered had never dreamed to look, and the seed waited, not for power, not for revenge, for someone to remember, to feel, to say, "I remember you." And now they had. The vision ended. The crew sat in stunned silence. Cale broke it first. "That wasn't a transmission." He looked at Illyra. "That was a call." Dr. Vey whispered. "The first whisper didn't die. They folded. They became the memory of feeling, and they waited for someone to wake them up again." Tess's voice was barely audible. "We didn't awaken the galaxy." She looked at the fracture device. "We awakened them." Joris stared at the view screen. "So what now? Do we go find this seed?" Illyra didn't answer. She walked to the center of the bridge. She placed her hand on the console, and she whispered, "I remember you." The ship shuddered, not from engines, from recognition. The fracture device, now fully integrated into the Vireo's core, began to glow. Not blue, not white. Gold, like dawn. And the ship's navigation system, once a tool of human design, began to change. Its coordinates didn't come from star charts. They came from feeling, from the echo of the song, from the memory of the child, from the weight of the seed. And the Vireo began to move, not through slipstream, through memory space, a dimension where time didn't flow. It remembered, and the ship followed. They passed through places that shouldn't exist, a library made of sighs, a river that flowed backward, carrying the last breaths of extinct civilizations, a mirror that showed not your face, but the face of the person you were meant to become. And everywhere they went, the song grew louder, not in volume, in meaning. On a dead moon, they found a mural carved into black stone. It showed 12 worlds and one figure.
A child holding a stone with the 7-pointed spiral, and beneath it, written in a language older than letters, "When you hear me, you are no longer alone." They didn't land. They didn't scan. They just paused. And the Vireo's AI, now infused with the Keeper's presence, spoke. "We are approaching the locus." The view screen darkened. Then began to unfold like a flower opening in reverse. Space peeled back, revealing not a planet, not a star, but a door. A single perfect circle of black stone floating in the void. No hinges, no lock, no markings. Just a single word carved into its surface. "Remember." And beneath it, a small carved handprint. Smaller than a child's, but unmistakable. The same hand from the vision, the same hand that had held the stone, the same hand that had whispered, "You're late." Illyra stepped forward. She didn't touch the door. She placed her palm against the handprint, and she whispered, "I'm here." The door opened, not with sound, with silence. A silence so deep it vibrated. Inside, there was no chamber, no throne, no machine. Just a single glowing seed resting on a pedestal of starlight. It pulsed, slow, warm, alive. And as the crew stepped inside, the song returned, not as a whisper, as a chorus. Thousands of voices, all singing the same word, "Welcome." The seed floated toward Illyra. It hovered before her. And then It split. Not in half, but in two. One remained. The other drifted toward the Vireo and merged with the fracture device. The device glowed brighter than ever. And then it spoke. Not as a voice, as a memory. You were never meant to save us. You were meant to be us. The remaining seed floated into Alira's hand. It was warm. It hummed. And when she closed her eyes, she saw it. The world of the first Wister, the twin moons, the singing trees, the child, the cliff, and the stone. The child turned and smiled. You remembered. Alira opened her eyes. Tears fell. Not from grief, but from recognition. I remember you, she whispered. The seed pulsed. And then it began to grow, not in size, but in presence. It expanded not outward, but inward, into her, into the Vireo, into the crew, into the galaxy. The fracture device dissolved, not into light, into song. And the song didn't stop. It spread through the echo network, through the keepers, through the children, through every being who had ever felt. And across the galaxy, a miracle, not of healing, of awakening. Children who had never known their parents suddenly remembered their laughter. Soldiers who had forgotten why they fought remembered why they lived. Synod envoys who had spent centuries suppressing emotion felt their first real cry. And in the deepest silence of the void, the silencers stilled. Not because they were defeated, but because they were heard. And for the first time in eternity, they too felt something. Not fear, not anger, loneliness. And in that moment, the seed in Alira's hand pulsed one last time and spoke. We are not the end. We are the beginning. And now, you are the vessel. They didn't know what to do, so they did nothing. They just stayed. For days.
No one spoke, no one moved. They just sat and listened to the song, to the silence, to the quiet hum of a universe remembering its soul. Then, the keeper's voice, now woven into the ship's core, whispered, "You have done what no one else could. You did not fight the silence. You sang through it." Tessa looked at Alira. "What happens now?" Alira looked at the seed. It was gone, but it was still there. In her chest, in her breath, in the way she looked at the stars. "I don't know," she said, "but I think we don't have to know." Kale smiled. "We just have to keep singing." Joris nodded. "Even if no one else hears." Doc added, "Especially then." Alira stood. She walked to the observation blister. She placed her hand on the glass and whispered, "Thank you." And from somewhere, from the seed, from the child, from the first whisper, the song answered. Not with words, with a single, perfect note. A note that had never been sung before and never would be again. Weeks passed. The galaxy changed. Not because of war, not because of peace, but because of remembrance. People began to dream, not of tomorrow, of yesterday, of lives they had never lived, of loves they had never known, of songs they had never heard.
And they began to write them down, to carve them, to sing them, to teach them. The children of Seed 7 began to draw the 12 worlds. The keepers, now free of their duty, began to weep. And on the edge of the known galaxy, a new symbol appeared. Not the tear, not the spiral. A new one. A circle. Inside it, a single note. And beneath it, 3 words. We are the first. The Vireo drifted. No destination, no mission, no command. Just presence. And on the bridge, the fracture device was gone. But in its place, a small glowing stone rested on the table. It had no markings, no glow, no pulse, just weight. And when you held it, you felt it. Not memory, hope. One night, as the Vireo passed through a quiet nebula, Illyra sat alone. She held the stone, and she whispered, "Who taught you to feel?" The stone didn't answer, but the starlight around her shifted, and for the first time, she saw it. Not a hand, not a voice, not a being, just a presence, a shape, a silhouette standing on the edge of the nebula, watching.
Not with eyes, with feeling. And as she watched, the silhouette raised a hand, not to touch, not to command, to offer. And in its palm, another seed, smaller, glowing faintly. And beneath it, a single word, carved in the same ancient script. Next. Illyra didn't move. She didn't speak. She just closed her eyes and whispered, "I'm ready." The silhouette bowed and vanished. The seed drifted toward her and landed gently in her palm. It was warm. It hummed. And when she opened her eyes, the Vireo's core pulsed, and the song began again. Not from the stars, not from the ship, from her breath, from her heartbeat, from her memory, and from the stone, and from the seed, and from the child, and from the first whisper, and from the silence between them, all singing, all remembering, all saying, "You are not alone." The Vireo turned, not toward war, not toward peace, but toward the next silence, the next whisper, the next soul who had forgotten how to feel. And somewhere, in the dark between the stars, the first seed began to bloom. And from its roots, a new world stirred. And from its branches, a new song began to rise. Not to save, not to fight, not to remember, but to become. And Illyra knew. They were not the last standard. They were the first to carry it. And now, they were the first to pass it on.